Bodog poll question today. Who will be Pius Suter's most frequent line mate? You can vote for DiGiuseppe, Garland, Joshua, Podkolzin. If you think it's someone else, then by all means, reply with other. Vote at Sekeres and Price on Twitter. Bodog, your source, free casino games, poker strategy, and sports odds. Bodog line of the day from me. Blake, grab a chair. The Edmonton Elks actually looked pretty good against Winnipeg last week. They're traveling to Hamilton.
For a half.
Tabby's off a bye. Banana peel. Edmonton's even firing their team president. I'm going with the Elks to snap their 13-game losing streak Thursday in the Hammer, plus 190 on your Bodog line.
On the road. Well, they might be better on the road.
Well, that's it.
Yeah.
They've got performance anxiety at home, but on the road, they can just play fancy free.
Patrick Johnston is chortling at your Bodog line of the day.
Yes.
Well, I was waiting to hear what the line was going to be, and I was like, okay, I get it. Like,
Long shot.
Yeah,
cash in.
okay.
Yeah.
You know.
It's not even 2-1, though.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Not a lot of confidence.
Well, we didn't bring you on to talk about CFL spreads, with all due respect. Like,
You just shush.
I'm sorry, it's not PJ the handle here. We brought you on to talk Vancouver Canucks. Pius Suter, what do you make of the signing?
I said to a few people now, I after they announced the signing, you're like, okay, this is a guy that's been talked about, but I hadn't thought about him really.
Yeah.
I knew he was, an NHL player I'd heard of. But the more I looked at the numbers and just kind of did a little more reading about him, I'm like, why is this guy a free agent? Like, how's he sitting out there, and how did they get him for this little? So, I think even on the day, as I said, and I think I told him in Ringwide, like, this is more, I mean, on paper, is already one of the better smart signings this management group has made. Especially if you compare to some of the things they tried last year. Curtis Lazar was a good dude, but there were plenty of reasons to think that he probably wasn't going to end up working out and he didn't. But there's a lot of reasons to think this one's going to work out. And, he's a guy that on a team that was not very good defensively, and I've made this comparison before with Filip Hronek, who is I think defensively, it's not a question mark, but certainly the best thing you could say about him in Detroit was that things got no worse when he was on the ice.
Right.
That Detroit was just not a very good defensive outfit, and he did not stand out negatively on that team. But that you had a player in Pius Suter who clearly did make a difference when he was on the ice, that the Detroit was better defensively when he was on the ice. And that's not nothing. And then you have a guy who's been able to score. Like, he actually has scored to the degree that, Patrick Alvin mused that, hey, maybe Teddy Bluger could be a 15-goal scorer. And you're like, well, I'm not so sure about this. This guy is a 15-goal scorer. So there's a lot to like about this signing. I think he does make the team better and fills a need that it felt like you guys were asking me about every week.
Yeah, well, and Peach did the welcome ad on this today. He's got the potential for two-way production here. Not only helping them shore up the defensive side, but he showed really well a couple of years ago between DeBrincat and Kane in Chicago. This is not a guy without an offensive skill set, and if they were to ever lose Miller or Pettersson to injury, which they haven't had to the last couple of years, or even if he sits there on the third line, Connor Garland still sort of needs to be figured out. I love the sort of offensive potential and gap that he could fill for them as
Garland
well.
Suter pods, is that a thing?
Mm-hmm. Sure, yeah. And he's the kind of guy that, as you've said, like, if you need someone to pinch hit, he can serviceably pinch hit. Like, he's not a guy that's going to, really be able to fill in long term as a second line center. But if you needed him, you were missing Miller or Pettersson for a night, and you need someone to play, bump up the lineup and stretch themselves, he's a guy that should be able to do that.
Maybe PP2 even too.
Yeah, there's a lots in his game that like, and this is, like I said, this is kind of like, why is this guy unsigned? Like, why is he sitting there? And I think to the Canucks' benefit, they've landed and they were smart. And I mean, this is the funny thing. In comparison, you look at the Blucher sign now. You're like, why would you rush to sign? It is. If you wait, you will find value. This is forever the lesson that those teams that rush out and get those depth guys, and I think Blucher's still fine.
Yeah.
But you probably could have saved some money. And I'm not sure. You had to sign him on the day you did.
I like the 2 years though too, PJ.
Yeah.
In that if it's 3, you risk a Jason Dickinson situation where you have to pay him to go away if it doesn't work out.
Right.
And if it, at 2, if it really works out and you really like what he's doing, you're not immediately having to overpay him for year number 2 here. So you get a couple of different looks at him here over the next couple of years.
Well, the Dickinson comparison is an interesting one as well, because I remember when that happened, and that was a summer of sort of goodwill tour media relations at UL. Like, that was the summer we heard, I know I wasn't the only reporter that got sort of calls from people in management trying to sell, hey, here's why. This guy could be this. And, that's not how this management group works for starters, but they haven't, on this guy, they don't need to, because we can sit there and look at it ourselves and be like, this guy's really interesting. Dickinson was always a player I thought he was going to be better than he was, but still, there was this instinct. Oh, you see, he's really good like this, and that's always
we have faith in him. Yes,
I'll admit. I was fooled by Dickinson. I thought he would be a very good addition. I like the fact they got him from Dallas, who were obviously compromised by the expansion draft protection rules. So it was low cost. I didn't necessarily love extending the guy immediately because
And that's what
I just feel like you got to fit. Garland's another one. They extended immediately, and gosh, okay. No, Dickinson didn't work out here, but he was okay in Chicago last year. So
yeah, he was fine. Anyway, but I would tell you that
we digress.
But Petey Suter's a better player. I think it's just clear already that coming in. Like, Dickinson was kind of like, oh, maybe he'll turn out to be, he'll take, it's that, he'll take a step forward. Petey Suter doesn't have to take a step forward. He just has to, show up. Like, to me, that's the difference between the two players, was that there's sort of this hope that, he'll be more than he showed. There's bits and pieces in his game that we think he can expand, blah, blah, blah. Whereas Petey Suter's just like, we know he's a known quantity. And sure, he could fall off and then we all look silly. But like I said, the minimum standard he's shown to date is a very, very competent hockey player.
Answer me the Bodog poll question. Who do you think will be his most frequent line mate? DiGiuseppe, Garland, Joshua, Podkolzin? Feel free to go off the board.
It's funny, as soon as you have the Podkolzin one, because I wrote a bit about this on Friday when they signed him, that there's now a bit of a cap question. Maybe they will have to make a trade. They're about, you can make a lineup that essentially is $1 million over, and with Tanner Pearson in the mix. So we're not sure what's happened to Pearson there. But Podkolzin is one of those wingers. Like, there's that mix of, there's sort of 3 spots for 4 guys. You go Garland, Höglander, Besser, Podkolzin. Pod should be in there. He should be in there. So yeah, I think Podkolzin is the guy. I think he's the guy that's going to be on his way.
Bob Vila.
I was going to say, is Candace
get in the new bathroom here, guys.
For those wondering what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just on the side of the desk, No.
I was going to ask if you and Candace are having trouble, if she hates Sekeres and Bryce.
No.
This old house. Yeah.
No, yeah.
Listen, on the X-Wings thing, of course, there's another X-Wing. Suter's got immediate, sort of acquaintance in the Canucks room, Filip Hronek, who we barely kind of know. We talked to Kevin Allen yesterday from the Red Wings beat about him coming over and, again, what to expect for a 100% healthy Hronek, which is what I think Canucks fans are all hoping for. He mentioned that he sort of didn't have a great reaction to Mort Seider stealing minutes from him in Seider's rookie year. Thought he calmed down last year, but there is a new science experiment with Hronek in that he's going to be under the microscope. He doesn't have to be the number 1 guy here because Quinn Hughes is here, but we are going to look over every single thing he does every single night, and you wonder if he's got the backbone now, having had some adversity and had a little what's up to his career, if he's going to be wiser to that this time around here in Vancouver.
Well, that's the learning to be a professional thing that I think a lot of players, and it's like being traded, right? The first time it happens, you're like, oh my God.
No one loves me. Yes.
So, yeah, sure. Fair question. Very interesting observation. But, that when you are the guy and then you find out there's someone else who's going to be the guy and you're the second guy now.
Yeah.
It's inevitable and everybody handles that differently. And I could imagine being in an environment like Detroit where things weren't going that great anyway. You'd be a little more sensitive because it is a statement about you.
Mm-hmm.
But Mo Sider, I mean, come on. Like, at the end of the day, you're going to see how the guy plays, and you're like, whoa, that guy's pretty good.
Yeah.
And that is the question now. Has Filip Hronek learned that lesson? And I guess we'll find out. That he can. He's on a new team. He's on a team that's, in theory, moving more forward than Detroit is.
He's also not going to suffer for minutes. Like, he's going to get a lot of minutes.
No, exactly. They made it clear they want him to play a lot. He's just not going to be the number one guy on the power play, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's. Yeah. There's still lots of ice time to be had. It's not like exactly. It's not like he's not going to be. Quinn Hughes clearly number one, but like they want him to be 1A. Like whether he plays with Hughes,
but they also want him to be good, so he's got to focus on that more than anything else.
That's it. At the end of the day, they need him to be good, and if he's good, the team's going to succeed for it. And that's. I think most players understand that equation. It's not that complicated.
Mm-hmm.
Elias Pettersson says his goal is to top 102 points. What do you think his chances of doing it are?
I think they're great. He showed last year. Now, I mean, he's in his window now. Like, this is when players get their points. But yeah, I think there's a really good chance of that. Like, he's talented. We know he's talented enough. And with, the fact that he produced with whoever he was last season, to me, was such a statement of sort of maturity. I found myself finding, I know he and Nils Höglander, looks like they've been hanging out in Sweden. We're posting some photos of them on a boat, and there you are, see Petey in his swim trunks, and you're like, this is not a skinny little boy anymore. That sort of, oh my God, is he gonna? You're like, no, like this was a guy we saw. You could see last year, just when you're talking to him preseason with the interviews, that he had a good summer, that he looked stronger. He's got his man strength now, and physically. I think he understands it now. I mean, certainly he's always understood how to score goals, but now he understands really how to make it all work. So you're not
worried about a Matt Barzal effect here with, you got a responsible coach now, or a coach preaching more defensive, and the production drops by 20 points.
No, I think this is a coach that, I mean, this coach played with Mario Lemieux. You know what I mean? Like this is a coach who's smart enough to know that his best player knows how to do the job two-way. We know,
and he's not Barry Trotz. Rick Tocchet is not Barry Trotz. No,
like, he played with Mario Lemieux. He also played with Dave Poulin as a number one centerman and two-way guy. But I hear what you're saying.
But you know what I mean, right? Like, he's a guy talking clearly to me as a coach who understands that some player, like, if there's certain basics you need out of your team, out of your lineup, and like it's not like he's going to say, Elias, I want you to, Barry Trotz basically dump the puck and cross the blue line, or dump the puck across the center. Nobody is, like that's not what they have. They want to continue to move the puck and move quickly and optimize, play the way Elias Pettersson wants to play the game. I don't think there's any misalignment here between coach and player.
Lastly, today marks 12 years since we lost Rick Rypien. A thought or two about Rip and his legacy here, which endures with the Vancouver Canucks to their infinite credit.
Yeah, you guys pointed that out coming in, and I found myself thinking. I've written a few stories over the years. I went back to a story from right before the pandemic started, when the Canucks had hockey talks in 2020, and I talked to Wes Rypien, Rick's brother, who's has always been happy to come out and be involved when the Canucks have asked him to be involved. I mean, it was it's amazing to think, like, so we're at 12 years now. When I wrote the story, at that point it was 8.5 years. And it is one of those ones how time advances and just sort of that reality and thinking about it and the way things evolve. Like obviously the Canucks, they have their own thing, Mind Check, which has evolved into Foundry, and a lot of really impressive resources around from across the province. But then hockey talks going across the league, and I mean, there are lots of things we can criticize the NHL for, but this is one of the things they have done a good job with. And yeah, just what Wes sort of said was just, that Rick, in the sadness of the loss of Rick, there has been something built out of this that has a legacy, that has sustained itself, that is hopefully helping people. And it's an important date to remember. I mean, that was a terrible summer, obviously, with Wade Belak and Derek Bugard as well. And lessons. There's always the lessons about that, about the role of the tough guy and the sort of expectations we place on them. But in the end, Rypien was such an exciting player, probably won't ever kind of see again. But a player that really made his mark and still has a mark on this community. Before we go, I just want to make a shout out to our buddy Trevor Mills, who, as we know, has, I think, shared publicly, he's dealing with some health stuff. T-Train's a friend of ours, so I just wanted to say shout out to, just on that note, people persevering. So
yeah, he's coached a lot of basketball here in the community and is an absolutely terrific guy. His dad, John, at one point was the head of Canada basketball.
Yeah.
With you on T-Train, Trevor Mills. Patrick, thank you for this. We'll let you get back to the Renos. Appreciate it. And until next Tuesday, my
Take care, guys.
Enjoy the new throne. Yes.
This Sekeres Price clip brought to you by Bodog. Make a play at Canada's Choice for free casino games, sports odds, and poker strategies.